Welcome back to the call up. You've got Aram Layton, Elijah Evans. In today's episode, we have the top prospect performers from every organization, basically prospect of the year for every org in the American League. And on the American League side, we basically are going to go one name at a time. We'll do the National League for another episode as well and talk about why they ultimately won the prospect of the year for the respective org. Some tough decisions for certain teams. So that part's really fun. Maybe some other names that could have been considered for certain orgs. And then obviously there's some that were layups, and we'll talk about what made that season so dominant. Article is linked in the episode description. Elijah, I know we had a lot of people helping out to make this happen. The article, of course, live on justbaseball.com with write-ups and all that good stuff. So very excited about just being able to put this out both on the written side and now on the audio side.
Yeah, it's fun, man. I think it's really cool to see what we've been able to do this year and our entire staff on the prospect side of things. I know you're fired up about it. We're excited just about the growth we've had on the call up, obviously on the pod, but also written. We've got people that are writing prospect content every week now, which is really cool. It's a thing that we've been, striving to get towards. So shout out to Jay Staff and Sean Donahue, who are the artists of these lists in terms of the write-ups. We put together these, you and I and Jack talked about the players, figured it out. Obviously, a lot of hard decisions to pick one player in an organization. And when we talk about the American League, we'll start in the East, we'll work our way to the Central and the West. We start with the Red Sox, where there's two pitchers that are probably pitching in the hypothetical game three this week if it ends up going to game three in the wild card series. We went with Connelly Early of the Red Sox. Easily could have gone Peyton Tolley. This is one of those where it's a legitimate toss up. We tried to lean towards the players who had more minor league innings when we picked these rankings over the guys who had a little bit more time in the bigs. Both these guys obviously in the bigs now, and if the Red Sox make a run, man, these two are going to be a big part of it.
Oh, no doubt. I think there's it's funny because I think there's probably times where I'm gonna like contradict myself as to why I think we lean towards one guy or the other, and that's just kind of the funny part of like the picking the minor league pitcher of the year. But there's something about I think just being able to one throw a few more innings and two just I think the way that Early was just continuing to go deep into starts like every single time out there, it just seemed like he was getting better and better. And I know Tolley was doing something similar, but when I just look at the body of work from Connolly Early, it was just so impressive before getting up there through 101 thirds innings this year. And I mean at a 2.60, 132 punch outs, like just all ridiculous stuff. But the other thing that was really fascinating to me is I think at the start of the year, not a guy that I know he was generating a lot of buzz, but I don't think he was a guy that people were expecting to make an impact for the Red Sox this year. You could probably say the same thing about Tolley, and that's what makes both these guys so fun and exciting. But I just think there was something about the way that every time I checked in on Early, it just seemed like he was getting better and better and better, and the arsenal was more complete. And here you are looking at a guy that might be looking at like the best version of himself at the highest level. But you look at what Tolley has done this year. I think it really is a toss up, and you can't really go wrong. But I just felt like some of the a little bit more length at times from Early was what stood out to me. You got a few more like 6 inning appearances. You had him just going a little bit deeper into starts, a few more 10 strikeout, outings, which is funny because he only had his, or I would say 8 to 9 strikeout outings. But it was all just really impressive stuff, and two arms that I think you got to be really excited about if you're a Red Sox fan.
Yeah, 100%. And early, I think part of the reason I leaned early when we were talking about this is because it was even less expected. Both these guys were breakouts for sure this season, but I think with early there was even more of that jump taken where like he got to the big leagues and those first big league starts, like especially even his debut, man, like the debut was like, okay, this guy is like not a depth prospect in the Red Sox system. This is a big league legit starting pitcher like immediately. And even with Tolley, like there is still some things Tolley's working through a little bit more, I think, right now at this current stage than early. And when you just saw what early did this season, in double A, and then he got to triple A and didn't slow down at all, gets up to the bigs and doesn't slow down at all either. I mean, his numbers in the bigs were better even than his numbers in triple A and double A were. So just such a huge step forward from a guy who's now a key piece of the Red Sox future.
Yeah, and I think looking at where they're gonna have both of these guys, since now Tolley just kind of more in that relief role, but it's just because that's what fits for now. I think it's exciting thinking about what they can do with Tolley, kind of complete that arsenal a little bit more in the offseason, try to find a little bit more well-roundedness because that fastball could be one of the best in Major League Baseball from a starting pitcher. So they're in a really good spot. I think you couldn't go wrong with either guy. But I think also with Early, you look at the statistical output. What I think Tolley started the year in high A, and
Right.
made a good portion of his starts there, but before going up to double A, handful of starts there, and then three in triple A. Whereas early was all year in double A, and then triple A. So a little bit more challenging, competition setup too when you're looking at the overall numbers. Because I think Tully got a nice little like juice to the numbers for how he was able to really come out of the gate at high A as well.
Definitely. Moving on to the Baltimore Orioles, and this is one where it feels weird because he signed a $70 million plus extension. But Samuel Basallo still gets the nod here for the Orioles as a guy who, he still played 76 minor league games this season in AAA. And, during his time in trips, it was just like the best hitter, one of the best hitters in minor league baseball until he got called up by the Orioles, right? I mean, 23 homers across 76 games, a 151 WRC plus at that level. This is just one of the best hitters. We've talked about him many, many times on the show throughout the year. And there's other guys that were in consideration for sure, but it's just hard, even with the promotion in August. Like, it's hard to look at anybody in that organization and not just say Samuel Basallo.
Yeah, I mean it's like nearly a 50 homer pace. Like it roughly is a 50 homer pace. It's going to be hard to pass on that. And then you think about age to level, right? He was 20 years old at the start of the season and didn't turn 21 until the middle of August, and is just torching AAA pitching the way that he was. It's just ridiculous stuff. That's why he got the extension. So as much as he is kind of one of those candidates where if there was somebody else maybe in the org that played 120 games in the minor leagues that was putting up ridiculous numbers, maybe that guy gets the nod. But it's really hard to put numbers up that match anything close to what Samuel Basallo's done. So I thought this one was easier. I think Beavers, really awesome year as well. Another guy that got up to the big leagues and I think really showed a lot of things there that has really helped solidify his stock. But then even when you look at, what Beavers has done, 23 years old, turned 24 right around the same time as Basallo, put up great numbers in AAA, like no doubt about it. But I just think again, age to level and then just the slug numbers from Basallo are just crazy.
Yeah, 100%. The other guy I would mention briefly is Nate George, a
Hmm.
favorite of our Discord, our prospects chat on Discord, which if you're a prospect person and you're not in there, like the prospect conversations in the Discord teach me new things and I love it. It's the best. But Nate George is a favorite in there. And the injuries were the reason he wasn't in consideration here just because he only played, he played 80
85
something
games.
games. So he ended
Yeah.
up getting up, but some of those were at the complex and then it took him some time to get going this season, but really heck of a season from a 19-year-old who was a
Oh yeah.
16th round high school pick last year and put up a 159 WRC plus between three levels this year, 50 stolen bases. So Nate George is another name to watch there at the lower levels who's rising quickly for the Orioles.
Yep. Absolutely.
Next guy up is the Yankees organization, and this is a funny one because there's one hitter and there's about seven pitchers we could have talked about. We went with the hitter, and that was Spencer Jones, who finished the season has these crazy ups and downs in his swings. The power is ridiculous. There's so many interesting things to consider with Spencer Jones. It's going to be such an interesting case study to look at what happens next year when he reaches the bigs. End of the day, regardless of the strikeout rate of all the other factors with Jones, he mashes. He hit 35 homers this season between Double A and Triple A. 35 homers, a 153 WRC plus, 30 stolen bases, almost like just the number output in general for Jones is up there with almost anyone.
Yeah, and it was one of the more torrid stretches we can remember in some time here, and I mean that was a lot of fun to follow. And yeah, then he hit a bit of a wall. I think he was dealing with some back stuff though, and then I thought finished the year pretty well, all things considered, because it was ugly for a little bit. But then you still look at the strikeout totals, and it's like, holy crap, he struck out a lot down the stretch. So I could almost take that back a little bit. The last 30 games, if you include the playoffs too, he struck out 48% of the time. So the statistical output was better again, but yeah, clearly just really struggled with the strikeouts down the stretch. But he kept it in check enough, and for a large portion of the year, was able to kind of hover around that 30% range. So, and I think that's why, we saw him just be able to produce the way that he did. I mean, 35 homers, 23 doubles, and a triple. And really, anytime he was making contact, it felt like he was sending that ball for a good month there. So anytime you're pushing north of 30 home runs in a minor league season, I think you're going to get some strong consideration. And then you pair that with the fact that he actually got on base at a pretty decent clip. For how much he was striking out, and you mentioned the stolen bases and playing center field pretty much every single day. I think that they especially down the stretch, I don't think he took a break from center field. But you look at the starts during the season, just really mixing him into the corner only here and there. It was a lot of center field, a lot of home runs, and a lot of stolen bases, and a lot of strikeouts. So I'm still skeptical of how it's going to translate at the highest level, but that's not what we're here for today. So he definitely gets the nod in this system.
Yeah. You say that's not what we're here for, but I have to ask, what do you think he's like competing for an everyday job with the Yankees next year? Not to jump in the offseason too much. Maybe it's like a platoon role. He gets up mid-season potentially. They try to work through some more of the swing stuff throughout the first half.
Yeah, he should never see a lefty. That's for sure. I think you look at he hit 180 this year with a 650 OPS against lefties and a 43% strikeout rate. So then you look at that against righties, say 1,000 OPS, 33% strikeout rate. So okay, it's getting almost to palatable. The contact rates get better. I think he's gonna have a shot, no doubt. I think it's very interesting to see. Like we had Buster Olney on the Just Baseball show, and we were talking about, you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to bring back Bellinger, or what does it look like for Grisham? I think those two things are really interesting because if those two guys are back, then it's a little bit more difficult to find reps for Jones. But in a world where Bellinger gets paid and maybe Grisham gets paid somewhere else, like yeah, Jones is going to have an opportunity to win the job there, but I think he's gonna have to show that he's not overmatched in spring training, and it's going to be interesting to see. But I think spring training could be a good setting for him because pitchers are
Yeah,
mostly just trying to get it over. And my
right.
biggest concern with him is his ability to recognize spin. On top of the fact of just swinging and missing, like chase rate was north of 40% against breaking balls this year, and I just think that's the most unsustainable part. It's not even as much about the whiff as it is about the chase. Then flanked by the whiff. So like that's the part that I just think it's going to be hard, but I think he's going to get every opportunity next year. They
Yep.
have to, especially after holding on to him. I think that kind of signified like we're going to give him a shot.
Yep. And we'll see how it plays out. The Rays organization. This one was kind of a slam dunk. Theo Gillen of the Rays organization, I think, was a pretty clear choice. I don't think we had to debate this one too much. First round pick last season. This was his first full year. A little bit of injury. He only played 73 games on the year, but 73 games, got on base had a 433 clip.
Yeah.
This is a guy who walks a ton, just a tick below 20%, steals bags. The power is still kind of coming along. He's still kind of finding himself as a player and his physicality, but he just turned 20 this month, and is just put together a really, really solid season all around in his first full year.
Yeah, the big question has just been injuries with him, and that's part of the reason why he wasn't a little bit higher of a draft pick. He's still a first round pick, but maybe closer to the top 10 when he was selected because there was just so many injuries through his high school career. But I think looking at him this year, even more polished at the plate than I thought. And I think you saw the swing immediately, and you knew that was going to translate. I think that was something that a lot of scouts gravitated towards. But then just the control of the strike zone. He ran a 13% chase rate this year, which is why you saw him get on base at a 430 clip. But to run that chase rate with such a smooth swing from the left side, and then it's not like he's swinging a wet noodle there either. I understand he only hit 5 homers this year and slugged sub 400, but I think that's part of the reason why I'm actually excited about what he could be next year is because I think there's clearly some meat on the bone there to tap into game power. He had a hard hit rate of 44%. EV 90 in his age 19 season of 103 miles per hour is more than enough. And I think it's just more about starting to just get more comfortable getting into that game power. And it's funny because even look at the hard hit launch angles, they're not bad. So you start to think about, okay, what is it going to take for him to slug a little bit more? And I'm sure that'll be a focus in the offseason. But when you look at the approach, the bat to ball being good enough, the speed being a huge asset, he's also learning how to play center field because he was a guy that was more on the dirt as an amateur. All these things that are really, I think, exciting about his game. And as long as he can stay healthy, I think a candidate to take a huge leap next year, too, as he'll probably play the whole season or most of it at high A.
Yeah, definitely a lot to like there, and just even a lot of room to continue growing, and someone that I think will become kind of that, one of those key prospects for the Rays who you're really keyed in on season over season, and just watching the way he grows. Probably gets to high A next year as a 20-year-old, and there's still a lot of progress to be continued to make for Gillen there.
Yeah.
Blue Jays organization. This is a tricky one, and before you yell at us for not saying Trey Savage, I get it. I get it for people that have seen him pitch in the big leagues. Like, yes, 100%. We went with Gage Stanifer, and that is because, in my eyes, it was more innings. First of all, Savage only he threw less than 100 innings in the minors, so that was a little part of it. And Stanifer, honestly, like the numbers overall are not far off of Savage, and for a guy who was not even on really anybody's radar significantly coming into the season, Stanifer's a 19th round pick from 3 years ago, so we did end up leaning a little bit towards the breakout rather than the proven hot commodities when it was a toss up. And Stanifer still had a 35% strikeout rate this season. He breezed through multiple levels. He pitched in A ball, got up to high A, dominated, finishes the year in double A. On the season total between the three levels, it was a 2.86 ERA. I just thought Stanifer was one of the more impressive pitching breakouts this season, honestly.
Oh, I think without a doubt, I think it's crazy because there's just no better example, I think, of how the tides have turned when it comes to Blue Jays pitching development than what Gage Stanifer is doing. Because you could see, okay, well, look at you, Savage and Johnny King and all this. Like the Blue Jays are doing great things, and that's also a good thing to point towards. But those are high upside arms that they drafted this year. The fact that some of these other arms are taking leaps now too, I think both of those things are extremely encouraging. So to be hitting on your high end picks is always encouraging, but then to simultaneously be converting, some of your other guys that were, more under the radar into, legitimate pitching prospects, I think is a really good sign of what's going on there in Toronto. But I think from a statistical output, you look at like your Savage's strikeout rate, like 41%. You're like, okay, well, who's matching that? Stanifer was at 35.5%. So I really impressive stuff there as well. You look at run prevention, 2.86 ERA versus Trey Savage had like a 3.12. I think a lot of people can make a very compelling
Yeah.
case that Trey Savage probably could have deserved it. But yeah, I think Savage is getting a lot of shine right now, and Stanifer at a year or not a year younger, but a little bit younger, still 21 years old for this entirety of this season. As a guy that was pretty under the radar and finishing the year in Double A the way that he did, but just torching through High A, and just putting together just so many quality outings. And yeah, I think the last step is just a little bit more in the zone. 13% walk rate is limiting to a degree, but the fact that he still threw to a 2.86, I think says a lot. And then, as you mentioned, like 110 innings, and this guy allowed just 4 homers. It's really impressive stuff, and I think you got to be excited if you're, a Blue Jays fan of, just the depth now all of a sudden in this organization pitching wise.
Yeah, and I think the last note I'll make on him there is the fact that he had a 6.3 ERA last season. So
Yeah.
this is a guy that had a 6.3 in A ball last year, and now just cruised through three levels at a 2.8 ERA. Like, talk about a jump in terms of literal year to year jump for a pitcher. I'm not sure you can find a bigger one in minor league baseball.
Yeah, and I think beyond that too, like so many of his outings last year were two,
Right.
three, 4 innings. He had one, I think, one outing of 5 innings. Two last year of five
Yeah.
innings. And with Ye Savage, I think the Jays were understandably a little bit careful
Yeah.
with him, and he didn't really go north of 75 pitches very often or north of 80 pitches very often at all until they were really trying to get him ready for a big league call up. And through the first several months of the year, especially, he was mostly going 4 or 5 innings.
Yep.
I mean, just looking through the game logs now, I think only one 6 inning outing from
Mhm.
from you Savage, where yeah, you saw Stanifer finish the year with three 6 inning outings in a row. And then a couple other solid ones when he got up to Double A, and then struggled, I think, in like second to last Double A start. But yeah, just the length that I think you were getting out of Stanifer too, because he's not going to get the same, treatment as a first round pick and get the baby gloves and the focus there. So he just kind of went out there and threw. And I think that there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, 100%. Let's get into the AL Central. Starting with the best or second best, depending on who you ask, prospect in all of baseball. We don't need to talk about Kevin McGonigle of the Tigers too much because we have plenty, but this was not a close one. There was some that were close. This one was not close whatsoever. Kevin McGonigle finishes the year with a 182 WRC plus across three levels on the season. Just ridiculous stuff from McGonigle all season. He got on base at over 400 clip. You saw the power tick up a little from him. I mean, the walk rate is 3.5% higher than the strikeout rate. He only struck out 11% of the time, which is just silly. McGonigle is going to be the shortstop in Detroit sooner than later. Maybe not out of the gate, but we're gonna see him in Detroit next season.
Yeah, I mean, just some fun numbers. You got 20 homers and 31 doubles. in 94 games. And then, I mean, just crazy stuff. 54 extra base hits in 94 games is just ridiculous. And then you think about the walk rate, as you mentioned, like the swing decisions just being so elite. Um, I think even looking at some of the expected stats, like there wasn't, it's not like there was much luck involved there. Like the batted ball data was pretty much straight on point with what the output was, the WOBA x WOBA, combination here. To get on base in the upper levels at north of a 400 clip and slug, nearly 600. It's just stupid stuff. So it was so much fun to watch him do his thing this year. He's a 20-year-old for the majority of the season, and yeah, I mean this was a slam dunk. The last thing I'll mention is just like here's the number output by pitch type. Fastballs 1100 OPS, sliders 1000 OPS, changeups 840 OPS. Curveball, is 670 OPS, but you barely saw that many of them. Cutter was about a 700 OPS. Sweeper, you could kind of pretty much add that in with sliders, but a 950 OPS, and then splitters an 800 OPS. Like, how are you getting this guy out? I
God.
don't really know how. Oh, by the way, left-handed pitchers, he had an 1,052 OPS against them. Right-handed pitchers, he had a 965 OPS. So, he's built for it, man.
Yeah, that's all. I don't got anything to add there. I'm just excited to see him in the big leagues, honestly, and I think Detroit's going to be really excited to learn Kevin McGonigle even more as he
Oh,
gets up there.
oh yeah.
Next organization up is the Cleveland Guardians. A couple things we could have gone with here. We went with a guy that I think is one of your and our favorite, underrated prospects in baseball, and that's Cooper Ingle, catcher for the
Mhm.
Guardians organization. A guy that really hasn't gotten quite the shine he deserves for being one of the best minor league catchers the past couple seasons, the past 2 years particularly. This season, he spent most of the year in Double A, gets up to Triple A at the end of the year, finishes the season with a 138 WRC plus, pretty much equal walk and strikeout rates in that 17% range. 10 home runs, it's not a ton of power, but it's enough power, good on base skills. I think you've indicated that his defensive work has gotten even better over the years too. This guy's probably the catcher in Cleveland sooner than later, I would have to think.
Yeah, I kind of like the combo, and if they want to keep rolling with Naylor, just in some capacity, because I know he's shown some signs of life down the stretch, like the combo of a really good bat to ball guy, and then Naylor was a little bit more feast or famine. But I think with Engel, it's going to be a question of just how good the defense is. I think it's gotten to a point where he can be average back there, close to it. But if he could push a little bit past that as he gets more reps in the big leagues or just upper levels to potentially be just solidly average, I think it's a really well-rounded profile here. I love Ingle because of the added power. And just looking at the bat, like 10 homers, great. Like that's fine if he's 10 to 15. How about the 36 doubles? Like that just clearly shows that he's started to find a little bit more. Because he doesn't need to be plus EVs to start finding the gaps and everything, because he has a phenomenal feel for the barrel and he has a great approach. And we're talking about contact rates here. I mean, 82% overall contact rate, 87% in the zone, and then a chase rate of like 18%. So selective, tough to beat, and then added enough impact and hits the ball at the right angles here, 38% ground ball rate, where he's able to find these gaps consistently. And then there's still that sneaky pull side pop where if he's getting you 10 to 15 with that OBP ability, like it's gonna play. So I just really like the offensive profile. And if the catching defense can be right around average, I think that's clearly a guy that you feel good about as a potential primary catcher. And thought he finished the year really strong in AAA. After having a little bit of an adjustment period up there, as so many guys will, because there's a lot more that comes with the territory of also just being a catcher there. But final he had like a 0 for it was like a 0 for 20 something stretch, and then he snapped that. And from the point that he snapped that onward, it was 19 games in AAA of 823 OPS, seven doubles, and in that span, he walked 12 times and struck out just seven. So I mean, the strikeout to walk rate all year, he walked more than he struck out on the duration of the season. Sign me up for that at the upper levels.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here too, once he got to AAA in 28 games, a 90.6% zone contact rate, even higher than that overall season number. Like, I mean, that not obviously you might not have a 90% plus at the big league level, but like 90% contact rate, even with that over stretch you mentioned there at the AAA level, like that's gonna play.
Yeah, yeah, and then that's the thing is like if even when he's going bad, he's giving you good at bats. He's seeing pitches. He's putting the ball in play. Like that's a guy that I really do think that stretch was some bad batted ball luck. It's hard for it to be anything else.
Yeah, 100%. Twins organization, we move over to Kaelen Culpepper, who was their first round pick last season. This is a guy who just put up numbers all year, man.
Yeah.
Especially, he got to double A and it continued basically the same. He split the season pretty much exactly even in high A and double A. 113 games on the year overall in his first full pro season, 138 WRC plus on the year for Culpepper. Just really, really solid. An 820, an 844 OPS in that span. Gets on base. You saw the power start to really shine through. 20 homers on the year. Speed, power, defense. Like it's he's kind of that archetype of just like your well-rounded guy. There's
Mhm.
nothing you look at in his game and you're like, oh, that's deficient. And there's nothing that necessarily you look at and you say, oh, that's amazing. But if he could be an average at every tool shortstop at the big league level, like you're very excited about that if you're Minnesota.
Yeah, it's some of his parts guy, and I think the big part of that equation was, well, can he stick at shortstop?
Yeah.
Because that becomes a lot more appealing of a profile at shortstop than third, right? So the fact that he looks like he can stick there, I think is really encouraging. And the one thing that I was worried about, and like is still just interesting to monitor, is the swing decisions against spin. So he's very aggressive and can be expansive against just secondaries in general, but he hits them really well. So it's hard to like highlight as an issue if he's hitting them well. Like he had an 800 OPS against secondaries this season. If you add cutters into that, it's 820 OPS, but he chased them at a near 40% clip. That was the interesting thing to me. So I'm like, okay, well, when he gets to the upper levels, the double A, is that going to rear its head a little bit? And it didn't. Like he was still productive against spin. He destroys fastballs, and that's the. Anytime I kind of see that juxtaposition, though, it was like 19% chase against fastballs, and then it's nearly 40% chase against secondaries. Like, okay, well, is he recognizing them? Is he seeing them? We'll see. Like, that's just the one little thing to monitor there. But he's producing against the secondary. So I can't really pick it apart too much. And then he's just a great outslug the exit velocities guy, right? Like, so the exit velocities are going to be close to average, but he's going to pull the ball in the air at a good clip. He got better and better at that as the year progressed, and that's why he was able to, I think tap into the power that he did, and I think that's the encouraging side of what you get with a Kaelen Culpepper, who just like you said, just kind of mashed all year.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy who mashed all year and then the last game of the season hit a ridiculous homer at the big league level. Royals organization, and that is Carter Jensen. Carter Jensen, whoo man, you have been singing his praises the past few months here, and it was in AAA and AA this season between the two levels. 111 games of a 136 WRC plus 20 homers in that span. It got up to the big leagues, man, in September, and it didn't work out for the Royals. They were hoping he would, push them into the playoffs potentially. It definitely wasn't because of him they didn't make the playoffs because he got up to the big leagues and looked really, really good immediately, almost. And it was the numbers there are even better than they were in the minors. But he's minor league player of the year for a reason because 111 games in the minors, and Carter Jensen looks like one of the better power hitting prospects in baseball, and is also going to be catching for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean this guy's yeah, I said it, like some of the most underrated power in the minor leagues, and I think 482-foot homer now in the bigs,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's. Someone had mentioned, I tweeted and highlighted that, which I appreciate. It was like, I don't think it's underrated anymore. So yeah, it's really fun to watch this guy hit, and I think he's gotten better and better. And he was at one point kind of a heavy, heavy front side guy, and so you'd see him kind of drift, and that would kind of cause some barrel drag, make it a little bit more difficult to pull the ball in the air. And he's cleaned that up a ton. But it was from Joel Penfield, so I appreciate him. He does stuff for KC Sports Network. But yeah, just highlighting the swing there, and then saying, like I'd mentioned, he had some of the most raw power in baseball. I don't think it could be underrated anymore now that in the big leagues he just hit a ball 113, 482 feet, and I think everybody saw it now. But yeah, I feel like when I was looking at the data in the top 100, the last top 100 update, I was floored that he's not more highly regarded. And then you look at the swing mechanics and how much better they've gotten. Um, the average EVs would put him, in the top 20 in Major League Baseball. And you say, okay, but that's in the minor leagues. Well, I'm starting to see that translate now in the major leagues. He continues to cut down on the whiff, and I think that might be the most impressive part about his big league stint is, just not striking out very much there. The approach has gotten better and better, and I think that comes from him looking less rushed in the box. and the defense continues to come along. But the fact that he's cut that ground ball rate to sub 40%, the fact that he's producing a 55% hard hit rate. I mean, even if he's just an average catcher, he's going to be good for a long time. And then put up decent numbers against lefties as well. I mean, he hit 309 against lefties. Not the same power output, but who cares? He doesn't look like a guy that need to platoon. And then against righties, just that power really shines through, and you see the 900 OPS. So I think this guy's going to be a monster. By the way, he's still just 22 years old until the All-Star break of next year. So this is a special piece, I think, here for the Royals, and an important building block to, I think, potentially being able to push them to another level next year, having a full season to him.
Dude, I mean, him and if Jack Caglione can take a step, right? I mean, you're thinking that power duo giving that kind of backup to Bobby Witt is going to be huge. You have Bobby Witt and Miguel Garcia at the top of that lineup, and then those two with the raw power and the upside they have kind of supporting them. The Royals, their lineup is getting sneaky good. There's still a few holes there. The bottom half of the lineup definitely drops off still, and you'd hope they'd make some adds this offseason because I don't think they're too many pieces away from being a really solid team, honestly. And Jensen's going to be a huge part of that.
Yeah, that's why I liked even just like the soft buy
Yeah,
moves at the
yeah,
deadline. Like, is Mike Yastrzemski the most exciting move in the world? No, but they just needed some backfill there. Like, as you mentioned, they don't need, stars, but like that's the type of player that I'd like love for them to bring back, right? Like, Yastrzemski's going to be a free agent. Why not bring him back? Like, he clearly was comfortable there. He put up an 850 OPS. Like, see if it works, and see if you can just get him back for a year or two. Like, those, they don't need superstars. I think they just need decent players to fill out the rest of the lineup, because you have Bobby Witt Jr., you have the upside of your internal guys, and Salvi's going to come back for one more year. So Vinny seemed to take a step forward as the year progressed. So I like where they're at overall. I just, yeah, they had more of the Yastrzemskis and those types, I think, will more than balance out that lineup.
definitely. White Sox is next, and I struggled with this one because there's two guys that you easily could have gone with, and this one really is a coin flip in my eyes. We went with the more prospect pedigree guy, and that's Caleb Bonemer. Caleb Bonemer, second round pick of the White Sox last season. We've talked about him on this show a bunch, a favorite of mine for sure, and someone who in his age 19 season, first professional year, just was incredible, honestly, and better than anybody expected. And the biggest thing, I pointed this out on another episode we did talking about the top performers at the lower levels. But the biggest thing with Bonemer for me is that he was viewed as a power over hit prospect coming into last year into the draft, and then starting his professional career. It was a lot of like, how much is he going to hit? How often is he going to hit? He struck out at a 22% clip and walked at a 16% clip while, getting on base at a 400% mark, a 400 mark. Like, the hit tool was so far ahead of where I expected it to be in his first season. And the power is still there. Yeah, it was 12 home runs, but it was a ton of doubles. It was a lot of gap shots. You saw him starting to get more and more comfortable being able to air pull as the season went
Oh,
on.
you can air pull.
Yeah, he can 100% air pull. So you're going to see more of that power, but the hit tool is just way ahead of pace for where I think we thought it was going to be with Bonemer. And you saw a guy that played both short and third and looked comfortable at both. Still probably a long-term third baseman, but the fact that at this current stage he looked completely comfortable handling shortstop at both single A and high A is a great sign.
Yeah, it's a unique swing. It's not in a bad way. Like, it's super simple. I I'm trying to find the best way to describe it. And I just can't.
Do you think it's a bit? This is a little. I've thought it's a bit Trouty at sometimes this season. It's
It,
not quite Mike Trout, but some of the simplicity to it and the aggression, but simplicity gives a little bit of Mike Trout to me sometimes.
it's just like the one hand like finish
Yeah,
though is just different. Where it's
you
like
like Bregman? Is that a crazy?
I may
I've been
like
looking at it and thinking
it.
about it, but
It's just, I don't know, like the one hand, and it just, the way that he goes through the zone, but then still being able to produce the power that he does is, it's really impressive. Like, there's some home run swings that I'm looking at. It looks like a tennis backhand, and I'm like, how is that going? Like, there's a couple. Well, I'm gonna send you this one when we're done recording. This 102 double, like, he doesn't even finish his swing, and it's 102 shot in the gap.
yeah,
Like, he clearly generates a lot of force, and it's almost like a righty version of like, in some ways, of like the Dylan Beavers conversation, where like it doesn't look like that full time, but like he doesn't really need to have this long finish through, because he's strong, and he does a lot of, it creates a lot of force in the short window, that, and the path is so good through the zone that, like, he doesn't need to really be long through it. So there's these like short finish swings sometimes that still end up with like being home runs, and just the path being good. The other thing that I noticed is like he starts like with his setup pretty simple, right? And then as the pitcher starts to get into their motion, he kind of coils a little bit and presets into his backside. So he really has just streamlined and simplified these moves. And like he's found a way to just be on time consistently, repeat his swing and get it off. And I think just from that lens alone, that's why the hit tool has been better than we expected. Is there as much adjustability as maybe some other guys that probably post those types of in zone contact rates? No. And I think that's why you'll probably see the out of zone contact rate taper off a little bit, but that's fine because the swing decisions are great. So, like, he may not have the spoil ability of some other hitters, but when you are able to make contact in the zone and you're able to recognize and not chase, you're not going to need to spoil as much. And I think there's more power to be tapped into here as well, just as he continues to mature. But yeah, it's very, very efficient. But at
Yeah.
the same time, yeah, it still elevates at a good clip. It's a fun swing to look at.
Yeah, 100%, and was the clear standout for the lower levels of White Sox. The other guy I'll mention briefly is Sam Antonacci. We've talked about him once
Yeah.
before. We had a tweet of his on the call-up page do really well earlier this week. Antonacci was, basically equal in terms of like production numbers with Bonemer. It's just the fact that Bonemer's 3 years younger made him the choice for this pick. But Antonacci's a guy who another draft pick last year of the White Sox who has gone from like a we'll see really great hit tool, we'll see what else happens to a guy that now is like he's in the AFL and like all indications from what I've heard is that like he could get to Chicago next year the way he's played this season and then
Yeah.
he put himself in position to legitimately get innings. Like he could push a Chase Maedroth, or Leanin Sosa potentially out of a spot next season if he plays the way he did this year.
I mean, he was awesome. And really well-rounded game this year too. He's one of the guys too that I didn't have a ton of data out of the draft, so I felt like an old school scout. Just literally looked at like two swings and said that swing's gonna play better than where he was drafted at. And but
Yeah.
even then didn't think it would play this well this quickly. So I think just seeing a little bit more thump than we were expecting, and those things are all part of the reason why he turned in the year that he did. But we always talk about it. Like I think I saw like two clips right away when he got drafted. I texted you. I was like, that
I was
guy's
like, I'm
better
pretty sure
than
this
where
guy's
he got.
good.
Yeah, that's better than where he got drafted at. That swing's too good.
Yep.
Which is just funny because normally I want to cross reference that with a little bit of data or whatever it may be. But that was one where it was just too obvious outside of the first few rounds. Like when a guy can move that way and have the swing that he had, and then you pair that with the approach. He's just always he looks like a guy that is like kind of annoying in the respect that he hitting has probably always come easy to him with the
Yeah.
way that he moves in the box. And
Funny is
I'm sure
he's
his
such a
teammates
JUCO
hated
guy.
him
That's
growing
a
up. I'm
JUCO guy,
sure.
like who was like he went through JUCO. He didn't have a single college offer out of high school and went to JUCO and hit four. So he had like 470. He told me in JUCO, and then went to Coastal, led the conference at Coastal Carolina in batting average. Like it's crazy. A funny slight note here. I got a one like my favorite quote of the year from Antonacci earlier this week on a press conference. He was asked about the fact that he got hit by 35 pitches this year, and he was like, there's an art to it. It's part of my game. He was like, I'm getting on base no matter what it is. I don't care how I get on base. If I'm not getting out of the way. Like, and that was just like, that's one of those, it's just scrappy. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
one of those
Hey, it
guys
counts.
who's going to, exactly. It helps
It
your
counts.
OBPs.
If you take Luke Adams hit by pitch out, I think his OBP goes down like 50 points. So
Good
um,
Antonacci.
it,
Hey,
it it helps. It helps
we'll
for
take it.
sure.
Before we finish out with the AL West, let's take a quick break.
Before we jump back in, you may know that Lids has trading cards now after our partnership with them for Topps Chrome. And now we're back to tell you that Lids has and will be an exclusive retailer for the Bowman Chrome release, which was a little over a week ago now. I've been ripping some Bowman Chrome. I think some of the prospects that we were talking about here may even be in there. But Bowman Chrome's always a lot of fun. It's for I think the big time prospectors. So I imagine the people that are listening to the show very much enjoy the Bowman Chrome release, and there's a lot of fun players in that. We have some info and I think an article breaking that down on justbaseball.com as well. But if you go to one of 101 different Lids locations, you can find these Bowman Chrome hobby boxes for retail price instead of paying marked up prices at secondhand shops or missing out on pre-sales. Lids is the new spot to be able to pick up cards, and that's where I've been getting my Bowman and of course the Topps Chrome before that. And just like the Topps Chrome release where we had a live box opening and autograph signing with Griffin Conine in Boca Raton, we're going to do something similar in the Arizona Fall League. So stay tuned for that. I'll be out there, and we'll be having a player probably do something similar with us in the Scottsdale location out there. And if you text baseball, just BASEBALL to 29017, you'll receive 20% off your next headwear or apparel purchase. Also, can win some exciting upcoming giveaways, things like that. I know in the past they've been giving away you know hobby boxes, all these different things. So also meet and greet with Ronald Acuna Jr. at one point. So definitely be sure to text baseball to 29017. But Bowman Chrome, go check it out. They've got it at your lids locations. Go. I would say I think it's the easiest card pickup right now for me. So I go to the mall. I go get the Topps Chrome if they don't have the Bowman Chrome because it's not as many locations for Bowman Chrome, but 101 different spots where you can get the Bowman Chrome as well.
Getting back into it with the AL West here, we'll start off with the Athletics organization, and their player of the year for us was Henry Bolt. Henry Bolt is an outfielder from, he was a high school pick 3 years ago, I want to say 2022 high school pick, who spent the year between AA and AAA, and was really strong in AA this season, and took that step forward. And I think this is a guy who, there was not a clear like superstar performer, I would say, in the A's organization this year, but just a quality year from Bolt after a quality 2024, 2 years in a row where he's just looked like a big league piece for the Athletics here.
Yeah, he took a step forward. So we just updated, as I mentioned a couple of times in the last few episodes, in the AL West, and the athletics system was fun to update because you obviously graduated some big time dudes, but they still got some exciting prospects coming up. But looking at Bolte, like he was somebody that I was impressed in the gains that he has made from this year or from last year to this year. To have the year that he had, I mean, he's tooled up, and I think it's kind of like that Tyler O'Neill archetype that you can dream on because he's fast and hits the ball really hard, but also comes with some swing and miss. And for him, I just think being able to increase the contact rate even marginally is going to help him. And that's exactly what he did. I would say it was even a little bit more than marginally. You had his 76% in zone contact rate this year, which got better as the season progressed. I think by the second half, it was closer to 80%. And like for a guy like him with his speed and power combination, that's all you really need. But he was 69% in the zone contact, rate last year. So to make that leap of about 7% for Bolte, like that's going to play really well. The swing decision's getting better as well. Like he's going to be someone that swings and misses at the end of the day. But when you cut that strikeout rate from about 34% to 28% as a 21-year-old playing in double and triple A, like that says a lot, I think, about the gains that he has made because last year it was more high A, double A, and to increase the contact rate that much, I think says a lot. Still needs to find a way to get the ball in the air more consistently, though. It was a 59% ground ball rate this year. But the fact that he was still productive to the degree that he was, I think it shows you there's still more to tap into there. And he's a project for sure, but a very fun project for the Athletics.
Yeah, and a lot more to like there. I think, obviously we could have gone Leo DeVries here, of course, but he wasn't with the organization. So we tried to go with guys that were in the organization the whole year. If you talk about prospect pedigree and excitement there's nobody more exciting in that organization. But yeah, this was a good pick and someone who still has more to do and more to grow, but already a pretty exciting year from him.
Yeah. And 44 for 46 in the stolen base department. I
Wow,
mean, that's as efficient as it gets.
that is good. Angels organization. Next up was Nelson Rada, another young outfielder, within one of these AL West teams. A guy who got up to AAA as a 20-year-old, and it's the Angels, so you can't be too surprised. But 135 games this season in his age 19 season. He just turned 20 in August too. So 19-year-old season, he splits it between double A and triple A, puts up the exact same, it's pretty much the same numbers at each level. A little bit different. WRC plus numbers wise, the same. He got the PCL bump in terms of the on base percentage and the OPS in triple A. But really solid year overall from Rada. Played a ton of games, 54 stolen bases. Talk about a speed guy. You're still waiting to see a little more impact, but I think at the very least, you've got a quality outfielder who's going to get on base and going to steal you a ton of bags. And if you see the power tick up, then that's great, right?
Yeah, I mean the floor is so high with a guy like
Yeah.
this, especially with how he's been able to survive in these aggressive assignments. And I think when you consider age to level, that's what really makes him the most impressive prospect in the system this year, as you alluded to. Just being 19 years old and being up at the AAA level. But yeah, I think there's more in here, right? If he can just tap into even a little bit more power, then you can maybe talk yourself into that primary center fielder role because the glove is so good and he's going to give you speed and clearly the bat to ball is always going to be there. Another guy that could probably trim down Rada the ground ball rate a little bit, but the swing decisions are good. The bat to ball is good, and that's as one of the youngest players at every level he's been at so far. So I think all of those things bode well for him. He swings it well against lefties, so Rada is a guy that could probably stick in the lineup every day. But if everything stalls out, you feel good about the defense and just bat to ball translating into a fourth outfield spot. But I think he can be an everyday center fielder, and that's why he was a climber in the Angels prospect rankings that we put out as well recently.
Yeah. Also, just it's just impressive that he played almost every game this season and every single one in center field. He didn't DH once. He didn't play left or right once. Like it was 135 games in center field is like that's not something you're seeing from a lot of guys. Nonetheless, a 19-year-old at the higher levels of the minors, like it just goes to show like he's a big league piece, and it might not be the most exciting big league piece, but there's so many things here when you look at this profile that's just like this is a center fielder at the big league level, even if it's a lower ceiling guy compared to some other names we're talking.
No, it's a good point because I think for a player like that, he's not going to have a huge week that catapults the war or whatever it may be. That's somebody that gives you value by just being there every day and just consistently piling it up. So like that's a player that I think a lot of the value would be knowing that you could sharpie him into the lineup 160 times a year, and I think that's important for a player like him that's trying to find any kind of edge to provide to be that everyday center fielder. So I think it's a
Yeah.
good point. I think that's probably one of the selling points for him as well is nothing's going to be extremely sexy, but you're going to know what you get from him every single day, and he's going to be a good complementary piece potentially. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that the Angels can look forward to, and I am sure he will be up next year.
Yeah, definitely. Now we talk about a guy who's quite the opposite of Nelson Rada in Mariners prospect Lazaro Montes. Talk about the flip side there of a a high floor defensive center fielder. Now you got Laz Montes, who is probably like a big league DH in the long term, maybe just like a lifelong DH. You hope he sticks in a corner spot somewhere, but 131 games in age 20 season for Laz Montes this season, 32 home runs on the year for him, a 136 WRC plus overall. It dropped a little bit at the double A level, but and in high A he was just ridiculous. Still continues a lot of success there. I mean, on the season it's over 50 extra base hits, almost I think almost 60 extra base hits for Laz Montes. A good amount of walks. A lot of strikeouts for sure. There's always going to be some swing and miss there, but we talked about Carter Jensen earlier. Laz Montes raw power is up there with anybody.
Yep, 100%. And I mean the fact that he's getting the ball in the air the way that he has to. I mean you can really see like the shades of what could be like a Schwarber type of outlook if he continues on this track at just 20 years old. Just to be hitting the ball as hard as he does in the air so consistently now, it looks like especially just against righties, he could just be a masher. And I think that's the next phase too. Can he continue to get a little bit better against lefties and in those lefty matchups? He had a 715 OPS Montes did this past year against lefties, 900 against righties. But I think the one thing too is I felt like, man, I don't even know if I could stick this guy in the outfield. Period. I got to give him credit. He's gotten his defensive game to a point where like, look, is he going to be an asset out there? Of course not. But it's not going to kill you. Like I think he's come along enough to where like I watched him finish some plays. He would never finish a year or two ago. Showing a little bit more range, a little bit more comfort. So he looks like he can get by out there, which is a lot better than he was before. I still think that, if you're in the right spot with your outfield, you'd rather he'd be the guy that you're putting in the DH spot 9 times out of 10. But at least you have an option now with how he's come along a little bit in right field. But it's all about the bat. And this is a guy that has 40 home run potential. It's just going to come down to whether he can hit enough. He punched out 182 times. And that's the thing. If I see one more person bring up the Jordan thing, it's going to drive me insane because Jordan doesn't strike out. And that's not to disparage Montes. I think it's just we got to recalibrate here. If he's Kyle Schwarber, you should be over the moon. But
Of course.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if people have been looking at it the right way. This is a guy that he's going to make his living off the three true outcomes, and it can be a really good living, and it can be a really good player for you. But that's what it's going to be. So I'm excited to see him continue to reach higher in that regard. EV90 of 108 miles per hour this year is just phenomenal stuff. But I mean, that contact rate's going to need to get up from 63%. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. On the flip side, Jordan's not playing 131 games in a season, so
No, no,
just
that's true.
just playing devil's
That's
advocate
true.
there. But still a really exciting profile, even if it's not Jordan Alvarez. It's ridiculous power from Laz.
Yep.
Next guy up, Astros prospect of the year is Zach Cole, who finishes the year in Houston. 15 games are at the end of the season, but 97 games between AA and AAA for Cole, a 151 WRC plus in that span. Another guy whose strikeout rate is high for sure. He's definitely going to whiff. But 19 homers in that minor league span, 18 stolen bases, a bunch of doubles, another, yeah, 22 doubles, seven triples on the year. He's going to give you some boosts and some jolts of offense, and he's also going to go through some stretches where he gets out a lot. And you even saw that in his first handful of games in Houston. He had a few huge games. I mean, four home runs in his first 15 big league games. Also going to have those three strikeout games. It's going to be give and take with Cole, but on the season, he definitely elevated his stock as a guy who will be in Houston in some capacity next season for sure.
Yeah, he sends him to the fall league too, and
Yeah,
he's also in Bowman Chrome. Uh, it's funny because I couldn't quite put him in the top 15 of the Astro system because of the swing and miss, but holy crap, does he hit the living crap out of the ball? 100 EV90 of 110 miles per hour. It's one of the best figures in all of minor league baseball. Hard hit rate of 55%. I mean, it is crazy juice. And then he's got good speed too, and he can play all three outfield spots. So there's value there. It's just 36% strikeout rate this year is really hard to just be productive. I think he could be that Sam Hilliard type and have those really, really hot stretches and then have stretches where you got to option him to AAA. And then you just hope that he can make those positive stretches longer and the rough stretches shorter. And then in the aggregate, you end up having a 2-3 WAR season. I think that's what you're hoping for. And it's really hard to predict with these types of players, but I can tell you he's got a rare power speed combination that's always going to make him relevant.
yeah, I think for a guy who doesn't like comps, Sam Hilliard, it's a pretty great pull there, I will say. But you know, it is going to be a very up and down profile. But that's not those players can be valuable, and those players can be a piece off your bench in the playoffs that end up being huge for you, right? Like you don't know what exactly that'll bring you, and like you said, the hit speed combination, the power speed combination, pardon me, is really impressive. So we'll see what it ends up being at the big league level, but a great season nonetheless at
Oh, yeah.
between AA and AAA for Cole.
How many bags do you have how many bags he has?
19, I think, is what I had.
19. But
Yeah.
even in the show already this year, I think
He had
he's
three already. Yeah, he had three in
three for
15 games.
three.
So, yeah. Yeah.
24 homers between the minors and the majors. But if you just go just the minors, 20 homers, 22 doubles, seven triples is
Yeah.
it's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And again, another guy that will never see a lefty, or at least he should never see a lefty.
Yeah.
But that's where maybe you can hope that he hits righties just well enough to maybe be a bulk
Right.
platoon guy.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Last guy on the American League side, David Davalillo. Davalillo? David,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Of the Rangers organization, a pitcher for the Rangers, Venezuelan international signing a couple years back. He just took a huge,
Oh yeah.
he was already a huge last season and kind of just kept going. This is 2 years in a row now where he has looked like really, really good. And I'm curious what you think about the long-term outlook for him. But this season, split his season between high A and double A, 107 innings on the year of a 2.44 ERA, strikeout rate in the, pushing 30% in that range, walk rate only around 6. Just really good output throughout the whole season from Davalillo. And same thing last year too.
Yeah, I just wrote him up because we just updated that Ranger system, and he was fun to watch. Man, he can really spin the ball, and I mean the assortment of secondaries from Davalillo is it's crazy. $10,000 IFA guy. His brother is an interesting catching prospect, also in Bowman Chrome, for the Angels, and and then I think his dad has some big league. Their dad has some big league, or at least professional bloodlines as well. I was floored at the feel to spin it. So you look at he's a curveball that averages over 3,000 RPM. The sweeper is right around 3,000 RPM. The fastball isn't great. If anything, I would say it's not good. But the secondaries are so good that I think he can mask them to the degree that I think he could be a four. Excuse me. The splitter was ridiculous this year. He held opponents with that splitter. to a 090 batting average. That's 8 for 89 with 57 strikeouts to complete at bats. Then the sweeper, I mean, I watched him throw some sweepers that got 25 inches of horizontal.
Whew.
Just ridiculous. I was sending some of the videos in the Discord. There was one that it got mistagged as like a foul tip because the guy swung and missed by so much that the catcher also missed it and nicked off the catcher's glove and went to the backstop. And then you've got this two-plane curveball that it moves so much. I don't even know how he lands it for a strike. So you've got that trio of secondaries, and then he also will mix in a cutter, actually, that's an effective pitch that I think will allow him to mask the fastball. So, yes, he has this iffy fastball. It's kind of dead zone at 94, but he only throws it 26% of the time. I guess if you add in the sinker reads, it's about 30% of the time. That's fine. And because he's got this assortment of really impressive secondary. So I think he can mask the fastball to being a really good back of the rotation starter and thrown a lot of innings the last couple of years. All of a sudden, I think a guy that you talk about a system, the Rangers, they're doing a phenomenal job with their pitching development and everything. And Davalillo looks like he can be just another example of that and somebody that could fit into their equation as soon as I think mid-season next year. Maybe even earlier than that, because do you really want to waste time in the PCL? Like, I don't think he needs a ton of innings in the PCL. He could throw well and continue it in Double A, and maybe they feel good about bringing him straight up. He had a 2.73 ERA in 56 innings at the Double A level, 26% K rate, 7.5% walk rate. Opponents at 196. It's a pretty clean
Yeah.
profile.
As you say all that, I was watching some clips of him, and like I'm even more in on him than when I looked at him in the past a little bit. Some of the stuff that you just described there is really gross. This splitter is nasty. Both breaking balls look like they could be very good. Is this a guy you consider? And I don't want to put this out there to him, and I think you can see it working as a starter because of the fastball. Is there any consideration of just making this guy like a back end of the bullpen guy because the secondaries are so good right now?
It would be, it's tough because I don't know. Like he just doesn't throw fastballs and just throws all secondary. Like maybe
It's
I
junk.
I kind of like it as like
Yeah,
as this guy that's gonna throw like the fastball is good enough where I think he can just
yeah,
throw it 30% of the time and make it work. But I think with the assortment of secondaries, I think he's best at being able to turn lineups over and give you different looks and give you 5, 6 innings than like the one inning, short spurt. I don't think you can
yeah.
maximize his secondaries that way as
For
much.
sure. Yeah. Caden Scarborough is another one to mention. The other guy we considered
Yeah.
for the Rangers. Really, really impressive season in his age 20 year after being a high school pick 2 years back. That was the other guy we had kind of penciled here in the Rangers org if we didn't go with Davalillo.
In terms of guy who like increased his prospect stock, I think
Yeah.
Scarborough may be the leader
Yeah.
in the clubhouse there. I mean,
Makes sense.
hearing so much buzz about just people that are really excited about him, and I mean that's a guy that if it doesn't work out, I think it will because he's so athletic and this already has such good fastball command. But that's a guy that if it doesn't work out, you can fast track him to the back of the bullpen and he'll be great there. But I think Scarborough is a guy that you could see make a huge leap next year too.
All right. Keep an eye out. That's all we got for the American League side. We will have the NL side in our next episode. But that was a fun group. There's some really impressive prospects, and I know a handful of those guys we talked about. You're going to see in Arizona in the fall league, which will be great to get some live looks on these guys and all names to just keep an eye on for people that are maybe just a little less familiar with all these different organizations. It's just an idea of one or two players in each team who really could be a big piece moving forward.
Absolutely. And reminder that you can read more about these guys with the link in the episode description. And of course, we're going to do the National League side right after this. So you can check that out tomorrow as well. As always, thank you for listening. We'd love to have you join the Discord. I'm going to be sending in a lot of videos. We're updating these team top prospect lists. We're talking cards as well, Bowman Chrome. We did a Discord exclusive break the other day. That was a lot of fun. Pulled a garbage pail kid. Those cards are really fun. And so we had a blast with that. We'll probably be doing more of those like discounted Discord breaks as well. So a lot of reasons to join. We'd love to have you in there. That link is also in the episode description. Best way to support just baseball and everything as well. And yeah, look forward to talking prospects with you tomorrow.